claim that were forged signatures. Maybe you remember some of the allegations.
World-Chief and the body politic should not participate in partisan politics.
Pakateka n'abakwata Injito, his preoccupation now is to give a good service to the people of Zambia.
Kuzisa abana bange kuba nifanye pano so nilabana kuzumba huko so pano kweli kapo pano nikatipia ndiramba.
For us, we only ride on the facts. Respect the decision of the party. Whatever they are going to choose, but signal and numbers can go and show.
You were once members of the party.
Yes.
Consider for you to come back.
Siyopotera musokoleri wameneakeringa musokoleri wamenanganya pali future.
Aya marali henango baota abantu kukwera kusokolo, but UPPZ is trying to show a difference.
The issue I'll never rest until we see justice served.
Munomba twaikala mwa Julius munokusekelela munyemba wati twachula sana amavoti nga yaisa baisa ba MP bafukama bakunkula tukotereni ifa tukakunja ifro tuleba botera tolale tafe declare tinagawina bakisitatila.
It's a motion that attempts to destabilize the governance of this country, if at all, by whatever misfortune it succeeded.
Claim that were forged signatures. Maybe you remember some of the allegations.
World-Chief and the body politic should not participate in partisan politics.
Pakateka n'abakwata Injito, his preoccupation now is to give a good service to the people of Zambia.
Kuzisa abana bange kuba nifanye pano so nilabana kuzumba huko so pano kweli kapo pano nikatipia ndiramba.
For us, we only ride on the facts.
Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Society, which comes to you every Wednesday right on Evolution TV. And this evening we're looking at genetically modified organisms, and my guests are coming from the National Biosafety Authority, try to help us understand what GMOs are and what their mandate is. And remember, we're live on Movie TV channel 43, on Go TV channel 96, and on Topstar channel 458. Also on our Facebook page, Evolution TV Zambia, and you can send your SMSs to 0978 43 74 37, 0978 43 74 37. And my guests on my left there is Mr. Christopher Smunta, who is the Senior Biosafety Officer, Standards and Technical Liaison from the National Biosafety Authority. And next to him is Sandra Mlowa, who is the Communications Officer. And on my immediate right here is Matibo Mushenywa, who is the Senior Biosafety Officer, Research and Fields from National Biosafety Authority. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good evening.
Okay, I'll start with you, Mr. Smuntara. I think on the just to tell our viewers what the National Biosafety Authority is.
Well, the National Biosafety Authority is a statutory body that was made because of the Biosafety Act number 10 of 2007. So it's a statutory body that regulates the import, that is the bringing in of products that may contain genetically modified organisms, the export, the going out of any products that may contain genetically modified organisms. Research where somebody wants to discover this new product that they may term a genetically modified organism. So if anyone wants to research and come up with this novel product, get genes from this site, insert it into another organism, and come up with this new product, a genetically modified organism. So that kind of research, the content use, wherever they are doing any form of gene modification, playing around with genes to come up with better products, that's what we regulate. Even if it's just moving out of the country, we regulate that such products. So these products could be food, feed, or any pharmaceutical products. So the National Biosafety Authority is mandated to regulate any form of manipulation, any form of playing around, any form of transformation, changing of such organisms in this country. So that is what the National Biosafety Authority is all about.
Okay. Now to you, Madam Sandra, the issue of, because our topic at hand is genetically modified organism, GMOs. Maybe someone who's maybe hearing this word for the first time, they want to know what GMOs are and are they allowed, in Zambia?
Okay, I think like my colleague explained when it came to genetic modification, that it's a process that you get a certain substance or a certain organism from this end to another end and then you merge it. I think it's already explained, but are GMOs allowed in Zambia? Yes, GMOs are allowed in Zambia, but they're only allowed once they go undergo a risk assessment and we issue a permit. So if a product has not undergone any risk assessment and a permit has not been issued by the NBA, then the products are not allowed.
Okay.
So the current status as at now, because there's a lot of controversy and I think there's a lot of talk regarding GMOs. The current status is Zambia does allow GMOs, but they're only allowed after a process. There's a process that goes on before a product is around in the country.
When it comes to the issue of legal provisions, maybe also try to elaborate more on those.
I think my colleague would be best when it comes to
I think just going back to what Mr. Simutala was saying, the National Biosafety Authority is established by a statutory act, that is the Biosafety Act of 2007. I think if we go back, we'll remember that when the issues of genetically modified organisms started in 2001, 2002, by then the government put in a policy to govern biotechnology and biosafety in our country. From that policy, it gave birth to the Biosafety Act. And the Biosafety Act is what establishes the national biosafety. And I think my colleague highlighted on the mandate. So we regulate anything concerning GMOs. And we also have statutory instruments to that effect. We have SI 42, which guides on how somebody can bring in food, feed or processed products into the country, should they want to bring these in. So these are the legal provisions that are there to govern the use of genetically modified organisms in Zambia at present.
Okay, coming back to Mr. Simutala, she said that there's an SI which guides on someone if they want to bring in these GMOs in the country. Maybe also, for example, if I want to do that, what is the procedure for me to get that permit to bring in those GMOs into the country?
Okay. If somebody or any organization wants to bring any product that may contain genetically modified organisms or may have genetically modified organisms, they need to apply. There is an application form, which is Form 1. And this application form has provisions of strict, certain specific things that we want to see. We want to know what company is bringing in that product. Is that company within the country? Is that company outside the country? We want to know who exactly are the owners. We want to know whether they've applied for a permit before to bring in genetically modified organisms in the country. We want to know what products are they bringing into the country. they must indicate those products that they are bringing. Are they bringing in processed foodstuffs? Are they bringing in living modified organisms? By the way, they are also living modified organisms and genetically modified organisms. Sometimes these terms are actually used synonymously. So they are those that are alive, meaning they want to come and plant, if they are seeds, if they are crops. Or maybe they are those that are alive, they're just microorganisms, but they've been modified for other purposes that they want to do, maybe some other research, whatever research that they want to do. So we want to know what type of product is coming in the country. Now, where they are coming from, has there been any form of research? Have they been authorized in that particular country for feed, for food, or for processing, or for research? If they've been authorized in that particular country where they are coming from, there is need for information from that country. Each country, actually as of now, they have what they may call a biosafety institution, which is similar to the National Biosafety Authority of Zambia. And they also have certain ministries where that authority falls. Certain authorities of this nature may fall under the Ministry of Higher Education, like ourselves, Department of Science. Whilst in another country, they may be under Ministry of Environment. In other countries, they may be under Ministry of Agriculture. So, you say, for example, they are bringing from South Africa. Ministry of Agriculture in South Africa, where the Biosafety Authority of South Africa falls, has even the products that they've authorized in the country. We want to see what products have they authorized. And then later on, other attachments are put together with this application, risk assessment documents of that particular product in that particular country, because if it's been authorized, it means there is also some form of risk assessment that they've done. So after they've done that, they need, and we've authorized, we've checked for completeness, they need to advertise, to tell the public that we are going to import these products into the country. So for any other information that the public may wish to know, let them go to the National Biosafety Authority. So if there's anything that they want to say over these products that they are bringing into the country, here is the information. Take it to the National Biosafety Authority. They don't need to take to the client that wants to bring in the product. They need to come and see us, because by then all the information will have been gathered for that particular company that is trying to import a product into the country. So that publicity kind of information, we want anyone who has information that they want to declare or talk about that particular product that is coming in the country, to talk about it, to tell us, no, please don't bring this product because there is this information over this product. They may be scientists, they may be non-scientists, there may be anyone, but they should bring with a valid reason why they don't want that product to come into the country. And by then, what we do to do that, we ask this particular importer to at least publish this information in maybe 2 national newspapers that are widely read, you know, and then we post that information also on Facebook. We post that information on Twitter. We post that information on various channels. I think my colleague will come and explain properly over such kind of information or publicity that we do. So after that, that takes about 30 days where we get information from the public. That is the only time that we take that document for a risk assessment. Now, before we take to the final risk assessment, there is what we call, you get technical advice. We have a technical committee. We establish a technical committee. This technical committee is a group of different scientists that understand the science behind the gene modification. That understand the science between the nutritional composition of the foodstuff that may be brought into the country, if it's a foodstuff of that particular organism, but specifically because since we are allowing foodstuffs at this particular time, any knowledge on this food, the scientists come together, look at this document, and finally it goes to the Scientific Advisory Committee. This is a technical committee established by the National Biosafety Authority that has scientists, renowned scientists in this country, by the way. Some of them are professors, some of them are medical doctors, some of them are nutritionists, some of them are food scientists. So these scientists sit together to look at this application, look at this product that is coming into the country. So what effects will this product that is coming in the country going to have? Does it have toxins? No, it doesn't have toxins. If there are any toxins, what extent will it have an effect on the human beings if they were to consume? Because you know, the range of effect for any toxin is various, because there is an entry point. There is a point that will kill, there is a point that will not kill, but all that range is understood and looked at. You know, the composition, the allergens, is it going to cause any form of reaction? By the way, you know, even other foodstuffs cause reactions. I'm sure people, when they eat groundnuts, sometimes they react because they've eaten groundnuts. Some people, when they eat what we call caterpillars, they react because they've eaten. But we look at all those things. What allergens will it cause to human beings if they were to consume this particular product, if it is a foodstuff? If they are working in the lab, what effects will they cause on the people that are working in the lab as they research on this particular product? So all that is taken into consideration and compared with what we already eat to see whether there are any variations, you know, and that whole process takes about 120 to 150 days. So that is the application process.
Okay. Now, coming to the issue of, you know, any product which comes, there are those misconceptions and people make their own, you know, assumptions. And maybe coming to you, maybe also, like you said, in terms of letting people know about these products when they are in the country, and also how you handle such myths coming from people who are uninformed on these products when they enter the country. So how is NBA bridging that information gap to ensure that people understand that these things which are coming in the country are safe or not safe for consumption?
Okay, thank you so much, Lab. I think the first point is we have a number of awareness and publicity engagements. This is one of the platforms. We've been on radio several times. We've had stakeholder engagements. We've also had one-on-one interactions. We've also gone out doing our spot checks. We don't just get there to maybe seize the products or to be a hindrance to the progress of others. When we go there in some of the shops, we meet one-on-one and explain to the people about the NBA and what is required of them. Even when we do our countrywide tours, we meet not only our partners, our colleagues at the ports of entry, we also meet some of the government officials. We also go to the common places, the markets, the general shops. So we are almost in every point trying to explain about our mandate, about the GMO status in the country, and what is required of them if they had to bring in any product that contains a genetically modified organism. And yes, there's been a lot of myths and misconceptions regarding GMO in the country. But we are trying as much as possible to clear those myths. And I think one of the interesting myths is that anything that is big is GMO. And I think of late we've received a lot of concerns regarding chickens, because some people think the broiler chickens are GMO. But at the moment, we do not have any GMO animals in the country. We do not have any GMO seeds in the country, because we have not had anyone come forth seeking for them to bring in such product or to do research on these products. So we are doing a lot of sensitization. And on the labeling part, yes, every product that contains genetically modified organisms is supposed to be labeled, and it should be clearly labeled. Even when you walk in these shops, when you read on the ingredients, you see this product may contain genetically modified organisms or is made from products of genetically modified organisms. So it's not only about it being written there, it's also about the people. When you go to buy, take an interest, even yourself, you read on the ingredients, what is it that is contained. The way we do when we receive medicine at times from the doctors, we want to read what is the content of that medicine, or what are the side effects of that medicine. So people should go out of their way just to read, to know the ingredients and make an informed decision at the end of the day.
Okay. Yes. Now, building on what Mr. said here, that also engage people at the points of entry. And you know, any products, there's the issue of smuggling for it to come. Maybe are there such cases where such product, the GMOs, are smuggled into the country without NBA knowing that these products have been smuggled in the country?
Yes, I think definitely in every system there will always be some loopholes where people have an opportunity to maybe not follow or not comply with the law. And I think we'll talk about some of these products that we have found actually already being traded in the supermarkets without the NBA permits. But I'll focus more on the points of entry and what is currently there and what the NBA is putting in place. Because you know that before the Biosafety Act came in 2007, you know, some of these products were already coming into the country. But they were not undergoing any risk assessment. The safety of them was not yet ascertained. So as the NBA has been established, we are putting what we are calling honorary inspectors, because NBA doesn't work in isolation. We collaborate with other government agencies that are already present in the border points. And when we do the awareness and sensitizations that she was talking about, we target those people so that as they are screening what is coming in, they are aware that if they see this type of label, if they see this type of product, then it needs a permit. So they should ask the client to furnish them with that information. So we are appointing inspectors to act on behalf of NBA. And then also, you know, ZRA now has developed this platform or this system automatically. If you are bringing in, for example, this paper, and we flag it that this paper is genetically modified, ikafika kuja kuboda in the system for ZRA, it should immediately pick it up to say, oh, this paper is genetically modified. Where is the permit? If you got a permit from NBA, in the system, the permit will appear. So they will let you pass. But if you don't have a permit, then automatically that paper will be held at the border. And they will tell you that you don't have a permit for the NBA. So this is what we are trying to do in order to safeguard and to make sure that when someone is bringing in something that has GMO, is made from GMO, they've actually gone to the NBA, risk assessment has been conducted, and it has been approved or it has not been approved. If you don't have that, then your product won't come.
Okay. I'm also touching on the issue of seizures that you've done as NBA, owing to maybe they have not complied with the provisions of maybe SI or the act that guides the NBA. Maybe also try to elaborate more on that. Maybe, like she said, there's some products that are currently on the market and are being sold in some supermarkets and other shops. Maybe just try to elaborate more on some of those products which are being sold and also those that have been seized, and also what are the penalties when someone is found, you know, dealing in those GMOs without the blessings of the NBA.
The products that come in illegally, actually we have no kind weights for such products, because if a product comes into the country illegally, it means not even a risk assessment has been done over such a product. So we don't know what its effects will be like.
Okay.
And so the best way to handle such products is to seize them. Seize them and burn them. That's what the law says. You seize them and destroy. So, and that's what we are doing. If we find such products, whatever products, it doesn't matter who has brought in such a product, as long as it has come in without the authority, without authorization from the National Biosafety Authority, the best way is to seize and destroy such a product. And this is the exercise that we embarked on of late, and we've been doing. It's normally part of work, because there are people that do surveillance, inspectors. They go out into the field to check what type of products are on the market, what type of products are being sold. And if they find them, then those products are seized. And once seized, the formula is just destruction. So what is the penalty? If somebody brings in a product without the authorization from the National Biosafety Authority, they risk being imprisoned. You know, first of all, it's 15. It's more than 15,000 penalty units. That's a lot of money, and it's not less than, I think, 4 years imprisonment. That's a problem. Yeah. So they risk being jailed. They risk being fined. So the best way is to ensure when you see a product, you know, these products are labeled, as my colleagues are saying. The products are normally labeled. So if they are labeled, then it means taking interest as a supplier, as a retailer, as a wholesaler, these products require a permit from the National Biosafety Authority.
In terms of maybe some of the airing shops, maybe do you have any figures, and maybe in terms of maybe 2018 that were found wanting in terms of them being found with the GMOs without the blessings of NB,
the National Biosafety Authority? In 2018, we had institutions. Some of them did not even have a permit, like Choppies. Choppies was one of them that actually did not even have a permit for the products that they brought into our country, and that's how we seized the products and destroyed them. Then there were those, the permits are of two types. There's a permit to import and there's a permit to place on the market. If you bring in a product because you've been given a permit, it's not a guarantee that you should place the product on the market, because we need to verify the product. We need to check the product and ensure that it's the product that you applied for. And so before you place it on the market or give it to the retailers to place on the market, you need to ensure that the products are tested, counter-checked, verified, batch numbers correct, everything, the labeling is correct, everything that is pertaining with the Zambian law is in place before you can finally be authorized to place the product on the market. But if we find you've been given a permit to import and you've placed on the market, those products are liable to seizure. They are likely to be removed on the market until you comply and they are checked and they are tested. And those ones were suppliers like GatPro. GatPro is one of them that it had a permit to import quite okay, but unfortunately they did not have a permit to place on the market. And so we reminded them, because we actually remind them. You remind them, you tell them you actually a permit. And also, it's not only us to remind them. The importer also must remind us, because there are certain other regulations that they need to follow according to the SI, feed, food and processing, where if you bring in a product, import a product in the country, you need to tell us that the shipment has arrived in the country before you can place it on the market for compliance purposes. Yeah.
Now, Madam Law, you assured the Zambians that there are no animals which are genetically modified. Now, someone might be asking, what types of foods now that they can find in shops which contain these GMOs?
Currently, what we have approved and the permits that we have issued are only processed foods.
Okay.
Yes, and some of these foods includes some soups, some cornflakes, some of the porridges. Yes. So currently, as I indicated earlier, no meat that is GMO is on the market.
Okay. And maybe also just to add on, from those foods that you have allowed to come, have you received any report in terms of maybe them causing side effects to the general population that consume those foods?
No, we haven't received any comments, any reports of such, because like my colleagues had indicated earlier, all the foods that have been approved and the permits that we have issued, we have found them to be safe for the humans, animals and the environment. Okay. As such, at the moment we haven't received any reports. If there are any reports, maybe we would encourage people to come forth and tell us that after eating such a product they had such a reaction.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing, maybe I can also comment something on what my colleague has said. What you need to know is that the National Biosafety Authority does not work independently. Okay. We are a government entity that works in collaboration with other institutions, and one of them is Ministry of Health. So Ministry of Health has patients that eat products that may contain genetically modified organisms, and if a patient reacts to any of the products, there is no way the Ministry of Health will hide that information, that this person has actually reacted because he ate cornflakes. This person has reacted because he ate no soup. This person has reacted because they ate baker's biscuits, those mini cheddars and the rest of those products, because those are some of the products that we've authorized, as my colleague said. So Ministry of Health will definitely inform us, because we are working hand in hand with them you know. And if it is any living modified organism that has actually somehow entered the country and it's genetically modified and it's been planted somewhere, Ministry of Agriculture must be able to inform us that out of all the products that we know growing in this particular area, none of the products is genetically modified organism, or one of the products is genetically modified. And we've seen, we've tested, this is what we found. So NBA, can you come on the ground and ensure that this product actually comes out of the country or is removed out of this place, because we have not actually done a risk assessment, we've not done a confined field trial. There are a lot of things that we need to do to ensure that that product stays in the country and it's grown in the country. If it is an animal, the same thing will happen. Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock will actually inform us. They will say, these products that we tested, they actually contain genetically modified organisms. One thing that you need to realize is that today Zambia has the capacity to detect whether a product is genetically modified or non-genetically modified. We have the capacity, we have laboratories. The laboratories are various. Under the National Biosafety Authority, there is a laboratory attached to it, to the National Biosafety Authority, which is under NISA. Under Ministry of Agriculture, they have a laboratory attached to ZARI, Zambia Agriculture Research Institute. Under Ministry of Health, they have a laboratory attached to Ministry of Health that detects genetically modified organisms, you know. So there is this liaison that we do and work together with these other government institutions that are supposed to inform us in case there are any allergies or reactions that people face because of genetically modified organisms.
Okay.
Maybe just to add on, apart from the food products, we've also given out 3 permits for research activities. That is 2 under HIV/AIDS vaccine trials, and the other one is the malaria trial. But the malaria one is still under confined stage.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, in terms of the capacity, like you have explained, in case we have such cases where people react to these, foods that come and are being sold in supermarkets, to have that capacity to mitigate, to handle such cases, and also to have any mitigation, mechanism to ensure that these, issues are dealt with in the shortest possible time.
For that one, what I can say. I'll reiterate what my colleague said. When a product is allowed by the NBA, it's because we've deemed it safe. We've looked at the risk assessment, we've looked at where it's come from, how it has performed. And even because there's also, when they make these products, they also do food safety assessments.
Okay.
So we've looked at the information, they fed it to animals, chickens, a mouse in the lab, they tested and there were no adverse effects.
Okay.
But then that doesn't mean that if you are allergic to groundnuts, you will not have an allergic reaction. But it doesn't mean it's because of the GMO. It could be because of an allergy. So when you talk about capacity to mitigate, I think this is why we collaborate with other agencies. We are not health experts, but the Ministry of Health is one of our strongest collaborations.
Okay.
So when somebody, if at all it was possible, I think this is where the collaborations are with the Ministry of Health. The capacity to be able to treat and recuperate that person, I think we cannot doubt it. The Ministry of Health is able to handle. If in a case where we did allow, for example, a genetically modified seed to come into the country and it's spilled into the environment, do we have the capacity to protect or safeguard? Yes. When somebody is applying to bring in these products, it takes 120 to 150 days because we look at so many things. What if it falls off a truck? What if someone steals it from an area? What if? And for every what if, we put in a plan A and a plan B. So instantly, even when that thing spreads into the environment, we have measures to make sure that that area is protected. We make sure the thing doesn't spread into the environment. I think even last time when the maize came, it was sealed, it was protected, it was to ensure that it does not get out into the environment. So for Zambia, we have been building capacity from 2002 to date. This is almost 20 years later. We have trained our scientists. We have trained our technical staff, the people on the ground. There's a lot of training that goes in to make sure that in every aspect, if something does happen, there's a plan to mitigate and safeguard humans, animals, and the environment.
And in fact, just to add on what my colleague is saying, what you need to know, gene modification is not a science that has started yesterday. It's a science that has been there for more than 30 years now. You know, gene modification has been there for more than 30 years. Today, even as we discuss gene modification in the country as if it's a very new thing, it's something that has come today. No, it's been there for a very long period of time. Actually, people should begin to thank government for bringing the National Biosafety Authority in place. Because can you begin to imagine what was happening? Because we have only been in existence for how many years? From 2013 to date. What about the other years? What happened? But now, there is capacity to regulate. There is capacity to mitigate. There is capacity to ensure that we safeguard human beings, animals, and the environment. It is true, as my colleague is saying, if there is a problem. Because you know, the first people who will know if there is an allergic reaction or if it is toxic to human beings even after we've authorized, it's Ministry of Health. And Ministry of Health, we have people that are members of the Scientific Advisory Committee under National Biosafety Authority. You know, they work for Ministry of Health, but they are also part of the Scientific Advisory Committee. So if there is an allergic reaction that has been reported at any of the hospitals in Zambia, the moment it will be a genetically modified organism, that day the whole country will know. Because Ministry of Health will be up in arms. Local government will be up in arms. The National Biosafety Authority will be up in arms to remove that product from the shelves. There are measures to mitigate, because there is no way we will allow the product to be on the shelves if it can cause cancer. There is no way. There are other products, just like the way we do with other products. And that is not only the only committee that tries to mitigate in case there is anything that comes on the market. There are other committees where the National Biosafety Authority sits to see if a product is poisonous, if a product will cause allergens, if a product is anything that may result because of genetic modification. And what we call the Codex Alimentarius under Ministry of Health. You know, for example, I'll give you a good example. One good example, when listeriosis started causing problems in South Africa, how come the meat products were removed from the shelves? Those that were coming from South Africa. Then other questions came in place. Is this listeria that is causing disease today, has it mutated? Meaning, has it been genetically modified? No, it has not been genetically modified, because when we check it, it's still looking a true to type organism, the same organism that has been there. Okay, if it's not genetically modified, what has happened for it to cause disease now in South Africa? Can it cause disease in Zambia? So, just like any other problem that may come into the country, the preparedness, the emergency preparedness will still come into play. The mitigation measures will still come into play. Disaster management unit will still come into play. Other ministries will still come into play until we make sure we remove that product that will have problems in our country.
Okay. Just to add on to what you've said, I was attending a meeting sometimes last year for farmers, and there's this uproar between the locally bred seeds and those that these seed companies are making here in Zambia.
Yeah.
And they feel that those that they think those are modified seeds and are causing problems to the environment. And they feel that when you, for example, in the village, when you this farming season, you keep some of the maize for the next
and when to plant, they don't grow.
Yes. So maybe also an assurance, maybe so there was that could see the tension between those rural farmers and the commercial farmers. Yes. So regarding those I can't call them modified. I don't know.
Seeds.
Yes, hybrid seeds.
Yeah.
So maybe try to also clear that misconceptions regarding the local
varieties.
The
other varieties.
Yes.
Well, the whole scenario is this: at this particular moment, the National Biosafety Authority has not authorized any seed that is genetically modified into the country. If it is there, let them tell us. Whoever has information, even if they are suspecting, let them tell us. We will check whether that seed is genetically modified or it's not genetically modified. Because we have capacity to check whether it's genetically modified or not genetically modified. So, what people need to understand, you see, the same change of varieties from the original small variety that used to be in existence to the hybrid seed that they are using today, you know, it's a form of gene modification. But that gene modification is at a conventional level because it's something that is being allowed to happen naturally. Because you see, gene modification happens in two forms. It can happen naturally or it can be done in the laboratory. You see, so now at that conventional level where it happens naturally, what is happening there is that there is selection of certain characteristics that they may deem better than the characteristics that are in the other seed that was being grown some time ago. So when they see that, then they will crossbreed those varieties so that the better varieties come into the other variety, and then they come up with this hybrid, this nice variety that is now going to be grown, and they will say, okay, this variety, at least it can grow faster than the other variety because of they've manipulated the characteristics. Now what is happening is, with the gene modification at this genetic engineering level, instead of doing it naturally, somebody is doing it in the laboratory, and then they come up with this seed, which now they begin to try in the environment and see whether the way it's going to perform, the effect it's going to have, whether if it outcrosses, meaning if it crosses with the other variety, maybe the hybrid, what will happen? So they try and see it first of all in an experimental environment, and then they call it, this is a genetically modified seed in that manner. But you see, if you look at it very closely, you will notice that this gene modification hasn't just started today, because it can actually happen naturally. I was telling somebody this afternoon, I was saying, did you know that the same genetically modified seed that is called BT, it comes from a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis. And this Bacillus thuringiensis, this bacteria, lives in the soil. You know, and because it lives in the soil, people even step on it. And as they step on it, this bacteria may even penetrate a human being. It may penetrate a plant. And if it penetrates a human being, if at all this bacteria was toxic, it could have caused a problem. But the only Bacillus bacteria that will cause a problem to a human being is that Bacillus that causes anthrax. Because there is Bacillus anthrax also there. If at all there is anthrax there and you step on it, then it will cause a problem. You will develop anthrax. You will die. You will just be bleeding profusely from everywhere and you die. But this Bacillus thuringiensis has been proved to be non-toxic. But this is an organism that they get put into the maize so that when those pests or organisms, but particularly for this particular moment, it's the American bollworm. When the American bollworm sits on the maize, then the American bollworm dies so that it doesn't bore. You know, it bores into the maize, it causes holes, it causes low productivity because it spoils the grains. So it will not be on the maize. If it comes on the maize, the bollworm drops off and dies because there is a BT that comes from the soil, from the natural environment, but it's just been genetically modified so that they put it into the maize. But then when you do a risk assessment, you try and see how much effect will this BT that has been put into the maize cause to human beings.
Okay. Now, Madam, here, maybe you want to add something?
Yes, I wanted to add something about the discussion on the issue of GM seed and our farmers and with hybrids. You know, in this country we have two types. You have maize, which is hybrid, and then you have maize, which is what we are calling the traditional, the traditional types. So like the gankata, which your grandmother plants, you know, that one takes, I think it's very tall, it takes 6 months. That's the seed which she stores, and if she plants it next year, it will come out like that. And then we have hybrids. Okay, hybrids came even before BT maize was there. This is just like he said. This is a part of gene modification that is not governed by what we are now doing under the Biosafety Act. So this is the maize seed that has been there, and this just came about to increase production, because we know Gankata takes 6 months, but a hybrid can take 2 to 3 months, and it's part of climate change. We don't have the rains that we used to have. Now when we're talking about GMO and maize seed, we bring in another dimension of what he was mentioning, resistance to doyo diseases and things like that. So at the moment, these new varieties that we are calling GM, they are not yet in the country. So farmers must not say that, no, they have now brought in GM. This is just the conventional hybrids that we've had on the market. And the farmer can choose, if they want to remain traditional, they can still grow, the traditional maize. If you want the hybrid, you can grow the hybrid. And you and me know that when you buy MRI 606 or ZM, you can't plant that seed the next year. That's not a new GM technology. That's the state of hybrids. That's how they lose that vigor. That's how they are. They increase production in the first year. In the second year, it goes down, And those are not necessarily GMOs. So I think for the seed sector, they don't need to worry. There's a process. When we're talking about processed products, my cornflakes, my biscuits, and when we're talking about seed, we're talking about living modified. Even the process of application for these two is very different. Today, someone cannot bring in maize GM seed, because before that seed comes, it undergoes research. Research will take between 3 to 5 years. So even today, when people are saying no GM, what about GM seeds coming into the country? If someone makes an application today, it could be 5 to 8 years before a farmer will be able to see that seed on the market, because of the laws that govern seed in this country, and also because of the laws that govern research in this country.
Okay. And in fact, just before you proceed, note that what we are saying is, okay, suppose somebody wants to do research on a GM seed. Can we allow or can we not allow? Maybe that is another question. So if that moment comes, we will tell the public that there is somebody who wants to do research in this particular variety or this particular seed because of reasons. Because you see, why should research be there? That is the question. There are a lot of climatic changes that are happening today in the world over, and Zambia going to remain ignorant and not prepare in an event where climatic changes come? Because you see, suppose something happens in the environment, climatically, because of stress, because of maybe drought, because of a lot of other things that may cause problems. Because here it's a question of understanding that why bring a GMO seed if you were to bring a GMO seed? We haven't done it now because is there need? It appears there is no need. But what will bring need is the environment, the climatic changes. Because we don't want, for example, I would say, we wouldn't want Zambia to remain hungry with the low productivity in an event where there is a solution. If there is a solution, there is need to do research. Zambia can do research at a confined level, and maybe even keep that seed. But where are they going to do research from? They will not do research in an environment where there are other products so that they contaminate other products. They need to do research. Research is basically something that you use. It's a tool that you can use to prepare yourself, to prepare your lives in an event of a problem. It would be embarrassing, I can assure you. For example, imagine there is a certain organism that comes and hits the country. And because we don't have a solution, the scientists haven't done their homework. The next year, it hits the country. There is no solution. We don't have maize. We don't have any of those products that can sustain the country. What we will do? Zambia will start importing maize. They will start importing products. So the reason why the NBA has been given a mandate to regulate research is because we want that research to be done in a judicious way, in a manner that it doesn't contaminate any other thing, but we become knowledgeable and be able to have a solution in times of trouble.
Okay. Now there are 3 questions for you, Madam Sandra. Here. This one's to do with the chickens, the broilers. So this one is asking that what of chickens are they that are kept by people within our yards? Are they checked before they are sold to the consumers? Then also there's the issue of accessibility to this information that you are giving. Maybe also the sites where people can access this information. We need to get just some more clarifications on what the GMOs are, and also where your offices are located and how accessible and friendly are they.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, lovely. I think the issue of chicken we did talk about.
Yes.
And I think when it comes to the other part, whether they are checked or not, I think that's not within us. I'm sure there are other regulatory authorities that handle that matter. But for us as our mandate, we deal with genetically modified organisms, and if at all we came across or we heard or suspected that somewhere there are the genetically modified chickens, we will definitely have to go there and check on them. But as at now, we have not had such a case. And accessibility, yes, you can find. They can always get us through our offices. We are on Off Lake Road, plot 100 at NAPSA building. That's near Chibelo and New Horizon School. Yes, we're along that road at IBEX at NAPSA building.
Okay.
So we are very friendly and we are very welcoming. Anyone is free to come in. If you have any queries, you can also email us. You can also check on our website. You can also check us on Twitter. You can also check us on LinkedIn. We are trying to be as close to the people as possible.
Okay.
Otherwise, we are very, very much accessible and willing to listen to the people when they come, whether they have queries, whether they've got concerns. We are more than willing to help them. They can also get to us through phone calls in case they're not anywhere nearby us. And if there's anything that is pressing, that need urgent attention in some of the areas, we are working, like we had earlier explained, we are working with our partners. They can always get to one of our partners and that information will get to us and we'll be able to respond to them. And we try as much as possible to respond almost immediately when we get information. As long as we get that information, we give feedback as soon as we can. Yes.
Then also maybe on the issue of, I forgot 2 issues to do with the permits. The validity. For example, when someone applies for a permit, is there a specific time frame that you give them to use that permit?
Yes, like he mentioned, we have 2 types of permits when it comes to importing. We have several permits, but for importing processed foods and products, we have 2 types. There's the permit to import, to bring it into the country.
Okay.
That has a duration of 5 years. So when someone says, okay, we say, okay, these biscuits, you can bring them in, they can bring them into the country for a period of 5 years before they have to apply again. And then after they bring them in, they need another permit to place on the market.
Okay.
That one has a duration of 6 months. After 6 months, they have to come back to the NBA again and request for a renewal of this permit. Why? Because we constantly have to be checking that this product is the same, this product has not changed. And then on the, just to add on to her issue on the GM animals, you know, the other thing is this information is actually available. You know, now there's internet. In the world, every time someone develops a new GM, we have platforms where they must register so that everybody has information. So even when we're looking at GM animals, there is no GMO chicken, even in the world, outside Zambia, that has been developed. The chickens that are in the country, these are broilers. We can say they're like hybrid chickens. So I think where there are health issues, they are followed up with livestock and vet, but in terms of GMOs, there's really nothing.
In fact, Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock does check. You know, they check. there are a number of things that they are checking. But since that is their mandate, we won't dwell on so much on that. But they check the drug residues. You know, people use a lot of drugs, so they check how much drug residues are in these products, so they can go at any moment on the market and sample and check. You know, so they do check, but no GMO chicken at the moment.
Okay. Maybe the last question before we wind up, maybe the issue of back to the permits again. Who is eligible to get the permit?
Anyone, anybody is eligible. The distributors, the retailers, anyone, as long as they want to import a product, they can come to the National Biosafety Authority. We will take them through the process and we'll give them a permit. So anyone that has use for the product that they want to bring into the country, because the most important to understand is that nobody brings anything that may contain genetically modified organisms without the authority or authorization from the National Biosafety Authority.
Okay. Maybe as a person in charge of communication, what will be your last words to viewers regarding the topic at hand this evening?
I think our call is still the same. Whoever wants to trade or to deal in any product that contains genetically modified organisms, they should follow the process. Okay. Otherwise, we'll still follow them up. We've been doing that, and just like yesterday, we were back in the field and we had to confiscate some of the products for various reasons. Some of them did not have permits. Some of them had permits from their suppliers, but they did not have permits placed in the shops. If you remember last year, we had issued an ultimatum calling on all traders and all suppliers to ensure that they give the copies of the permits to the people they supply the products to. So if we don't find those copies of the permits in the shops, we'll definitely confiscate and destroy the product.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for coming this evening. These people have learned one or two from our discussion this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This has been the Society, which comes to you every Wednesday right on Evolution TV. And our topic was genetically modified organisms, and my guests were from the National Biosafety Authority. We had Mr. Christopher Simon Tala, the Senior Biosafety Officer, Standards Technical Horizon, and also Madam Sandra Mloa, who is a Communications Officer, and Madam Matibo Mushenywa, who is the Senior Biosafety Officer, Research and Fields. From me, Avdi Kalombo, and the entire production team is goodbye. See you next week, and God bless you.
Claims that were forged signatures. Maybe you remember some of the allegations.
While chief and the body policy should not participate in partisan politics.
Pakateka n'abakwata Egypto, its preoccupation now is to give a good service to the people of Zambia.
Kuzisa abana bange kuba nipeni nili pano so nilabana kunyumba huko so pano nipeni kapu pano nikatilifiwe ndiraba
For us, we only ride on the facts. Respect the decision of the party. Whoever they are going to choose, but seeking our numbers can go a short pass.
You were once members of the party.
Yes.
Siyopotera musogoleri wameneakeringa musogoleri waminanganya pali chiyucha
aya marali enango